Quasi here. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I detoxed from dopamine and why I was addicted to dopamine and how I did it in a way that was sustainable and not by cutting out my phone for a day or cutting out music for a day or cutting out breathing for a day, but actually a sustainable way to do it. Okay, I want you to stick around to the very end of this video because I'm going to share with you the 2 things that I quit and what happened after I quit, and basically this graph which is going to explain to you why short-term highs are unsustainable and how to create a longer-term high. Before I begin this video, I want to quickly announce a couple of spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult for the Reality Mastery Program. Make sure you wait around till the end of the video for the announcement on how to sign up for that. With that, let's get started. So today I want to talk to you about dopamine detox and why mankind is addicted to dopamine. If you look anywhere right now, there is so much stimulation out there. Like kids are on their phones. They're like 12, 13-year-olds with iPhones and iPads, just constantly getting stimulated. It fucks up their brain. Like it just wires them in such a way that it's not sustainable. You know, little kids at that age, when your brain hasn't fully developed, should not be exposed to that level of dopamine. Even 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and mums like leaving them on the iPad just to watch TV shows. You know, it's not supposed to be like that, because when it is like that, then your brain just gets wired a completely different way, just for instant gratification. It grows up needing instant gratification. So if you're a mom, you're a parent watching this, I would definitely keep an eye out for that. But for me, what I saw was that I would procrastinate a lot on the things that I needed to do. So I had a lot of big projects a couple of months ago, and I saw that I started procrastinating on it. And that was completely unlike me, because whenever I say go, it's go. And I started to look at why I started to procrastinate. And it's just because I didn't feel like doing it. And when I don't feel like doing it, then I don't do it. So how do you get yourself to feel like doing something? Because if you don't like to do something, you're never going to do it. Like, contrary to popular belief, you can't force yourself to do shit. It's not sustainable. You're going to do it and then you're going to burn out. So the key is to get it done in a way that doesn't burn you out and you actually enjoy your business. You enjoy doing what you do. And that's what I want to share with you today. So the 2 big things that I gave up the last couple of months was sugar, any form of sugar. I'm not talking about carbohydrates, by the way. I'm not talking about bread or rice, any of that, but actual legit added sugar, okay? Minimal fruit, but absolutely no added sugar, no ice cream, no dessert, no cookies, no shit, none of that. But also caffeine, that's a big one. And I'm gonna share with you why it was so important for me and the big changes that it brought about within me. So before we get to that, understand that nowadays we're very stimulation overloaded. You have to get your daily Dunkin' or your Starbucks to go about your day. You're dependent on it, right? You need the stimulation. Oh, you've got to check your social media first thing in the morning. Oh, you've got to, listen to that music at the gym and on your walk, and you have to do this and you have to do that. Whenever you have to do something in order to function, that's when you know it's a problem. Right? That's when you've got to be acutely aware of it and start to question yourself on it. Like, do I really need this? Do I really need this to function? Only when you can quit something like caffeine for 30, 60 days, then you can come back on it and say, yeah, you know what? I function without it. So now I can reintroduce it back into my life. And if you see that you've really been functioning better, there's no question of adding it back, right? So it's kind of like poor people saying money is evil, you know? Like, you've got to experience money first and then be like, oh, it's not evil. So yeah, it's like, I used to have a lot of addiction to video games, pornography, just watching that and browsing on my computer, caffeine too. Like in college, I started drinking caffeine and it was absolutely detrimental to me because I got really addicted to it. I would need like caffeine every single day. You know, even at work for the whole year in entrepreneurship, I was just trying to start up my business and I was just going hard with caffeine. I thought it gave me some magical energy, but it started to burn me out and my adrenals out. So what I want you to understand that as a general rule, anything that gives you a quick high always lasts a very short period, and there's a clawback effect to it. So anytime you do a drug to get a stimulation, you're always going to have a clawback effect. You're going to have a low, basically. So you get a high and you get a low. But if things are more sustainable, the more sustainable things are, the less of a low you get. So to give you an example of this, if we have 2 graphs here, right? The first one in blue is instant gratification. You drinking caffeine, you masturbating to porn, you I don't know, having sex with a one-night stand, or you know, winning the lottery. It's going to have a short high, but then a very quick low. As opposed to if you build your own business, because that takes a longer time to build up. If you have a fulfilling relationship as opposed to a one-night stand. If you do longer term things that contribute to your future, that gives you delayed gratification. Maybe you're building up a YouTube channel and it's not showing results now, but you keep piling on video after video, you keep putting in work, you keep being consistent. Over time this goes up, right? And it gives you a longer gratification. This is like building a successful business, and this is getting a hit of a paycheck, right? So what this literally means, if you look at the area under these graphs, this is the longer term one, the one in red, of delayed gratification. This is the shorter term one of instant gratification. If you look at this area under the graph, A1 of instant gratification is lower than A2, which is delayed gratification. So the area under it represents the total sum of pleasures that you get, right? So this is more of a sustained pleasure. The more longer term, the more delayed you can make your gratification. This is why yogis and spiritual people, when they meditate, they get so much out of it because they're delaying it more and more. They're not getting like an instant dopamine high, but it's a continual process of doing yoga every single day, and you become better and better every single day, and you get more and more disciplined, and you look back at what life was like, and because it wasn't an instant high, you don't even notice the changes, but you've made insane growth. Like if you look at your life before a spiritual journey and after a spiritual journey and during a spiritual journey, a year seems like a very, very long time, right? So this is what I mean by the areas underneath these graphs. The areas symbolize the total pleasure that you get, and for the shorter term one, it's much less, it's much smaller, okay? So this is why you've got to start to curb out all of these gratifications and look at that longer term thing. Like what is it you want to create for your life? Because if you keep focusing on hedonism and just getting a pleasure now, you're going to be sacrificing on your dreams, right? If you don't sacrifice for your dreams, then your dreams actually become the sacrifice. And now I want to share with you basically the 3 keys and actually what benefits I got out of quitting caffeine and sugar, okay? So before we get to these 3 keys here, I quit caffeine exactly 3.5 weeks ago, and sugar slightly more than that, because I started to see that my sleep was getting affected. I would get really bad sleep scores. If you notice, I wear this ring on some of my older videos. It's called an Aura. A lot of people have been asking about that. But what that does is it tracks my sleep scores and my readiness scores. And it would suck for me because I was just, hopped up on sugar all the time and stimulants. So when I started to quit, I saw like a very sharp increase and much more consistency. But when I started quitting caffeine, I started to notice something very, very interesting. I had a very stable energy level throughout the day. How I felt first thing in the morning, I felt the same way right up until the point like 30 minutes before bed. There was no fluctuation in energy level whatsoever. The same thing with sugar, right? Because I didn't have sugar, I was not my brain would go all over the place. I could never focus on one single thing. But my levels of focus have gotten much deeper now that I've just totally gotten rid of added sugars. If you just get rid of any sort of junk food that you eat, you will be a lot better. Like I would say 80-90% better. You'd feel 80-90% better. And your work will start to show it, right? Your performance will start to show it. So that's what I've started to do. Those are the biggest benefits. It was sleep, it was focus, it was the willpower and the motivation to do work. I would just wake up and I'm good to go. Like I would wake up in the morning. Back then I would have to pull myself up. I'd be like, oh God, I don't want to do this. But now it's just jumping up. At 6:30 I would just jump up, right? So those were the big benefits of quitting caffeine and sugar. I'm gonna write it down here. Caffeine. Just try going 30 days without any sort of caffeine. No teas, like black tea and green tea have caffeine. Coffee, obviously, is a no-brainer. Pre-workout. I go to the gym. I don't take any sort of pre-workout or any sort of caffeine before that. I used to have to take caffeine. I used to have to drink a cup of coffee because I think, my workouts will be better. But I've actually been having great workouts. I've been gaining a lot of strength. Just quit caffeine and sugar. These are the 2 things. And then anything else that you notice that you do in your life in excess, like checking your phone incessantly, check your screen time, check any excessive flavors that you eat. Like if you keep eating spicy foods or sweet foods or salty foods, just get rid of that, slowly wean out of that. Because that's also a form of stimulation. When you keep having to listen to music, or you keep having to do something in order to function, or you keep vaping or something, those are all forms of stimulation. The lower you can make stimulation, the lower you can make any sort of stimulations that you're getting from your environment, whether there's like a background buzzing and humming from your air conditioner or anything, you'll start to see you become more sensitive to life. When you become sensitive to life, the opportunities around you start to show up more and more. The frequency of these opportunities, they become more and more available to you in your worldview, because now you're becoming sensitive and receptive enough. Sensitivity literally means receptivity, okay? Too much sensitivity is bad, too much of anything is bad, right? But you've got to learn to maintain that balance for you, right? Doing these two things is very, very powerful, and incessantly checking your social media, if you eliminate that, that'll change your life. But now I want to share with you the 3 keys that you can use right now to help you do this. Okay, number 1 is obviously evaluate. Like, just evaluate your life right now. Look at a typical day in your life and what it looks like. When do you check your phone? What kind of foods do you eat? You know, what's your daily routine? In all of those things, caffeine, sugar, social media, anything else. By the way, there's a good documentary on Netflix I advise you to check out. It's called The Social Dilemma. And it outlines the effects, the detrimental effects of social media on your brain, and how social media actually works and why it's so addictive. Highly recommend giving it a check out. But evaluate your life. And number 2, this is important. Like, cut it down slowly. I could just eliminate caffeine just like that, because prior to that I've just been going on green tea, and I've only been having a cup of coffee instead of 2 cups a day. So because of that, I could just slowly go from 2 cups a day to 1 cup a day to 1 cup a week to only green tea every single day to green tea 1 day a week, and then just cutting it out. And when I slowly cut it out, it becomes more sustainable. Again, you'd never want to make these fluctuations, because then you just go from one pole to the next. It'll never become sustainable. It's like trying to do an extreme diet. It'll never last. Like, try doing a ketogenic diet for the rest of your life. Eating fats and meat, it's just not sustainable. Do a slow cut of all of these things, okay? If you wake up at 3 p.m. and you want to start waking up at 5 a.m., go first to 12 p.m., then to 8 a.m., then to 5 a.m., right? Don't just go from 3 to 5. It's going to knock you. And number 3, maintain your importance levels throughout all of this. This is very, very important. Because if you put too much importance on this, like, oh, I shall not have caffeine, even if I die, no. It's just not sustainable. Like, I'll have coffee, you know, if it calls for it. If I'm outside and I'm with my wife and on a Sunday we decide to go to a coffee shop, sure, I'll have a coffee. Sure, I'll have a sugary drink. But it's not the rule. I don't do it all the time. I'll just make an exception for it. Because when you make it too important, then it itself starts to work against you. I made a video on this, by the way, on semen retention, and why, like, people get so serious about it and then it starts to detrimentally work against them. So never be too serious about it. Whenever the game gets too serious, it's time to show yourself that it's a game. It's never too serious. Because or else you become identified with that. You're like, oh, I'm Quasi, the no caffeine guy. Oh, I'm Quasi, the dopamine detox guy. And then when you do relapse, then you're going to be like, oh shit, well, I can't live up to that identity anymore. I can't make videos about this anymore. Oh no. So yeah, I'll have it sometimes. And if you feel that it is necessary and you can't live without it, then you should definitely not do it. Like, you should, you should definitely do a dopamine detox then. Because if it's getting that extreme, it's time to show yourself and break this illusion, right? And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Let's do a quick recap of what we talked about. We talked about dopamine detox and stimulation overload, and why everyone right now in society, I see my dad going through his phone like 12 hours. His screen time is like 7 to 12 hours a day. I'm like, what? That's insane. Mine's like 40 minutes, right? So I bet a lot of people have over 2-3 hours of screen time a day, which is crazy. Like, imagine spending 2-3 hours of your life, 2-3 hours of a single day, of a single I don't know, 8, 10 hours 12 hours that you're awake, 12, 14 hours that you're awake, spending that on your phone. That's kind of crazy. And for me, it was with video games that had a lot of stimulation, my phone, screens, news, caffeine. Oh, it was a nightmare. No wonder I couldn't focus. If you get rid of all of these, slowly wean yourself off them, you'll start to become more and more receptive to things. And this is a general rule. There are exceptions to this rule, but the general rule is that quick pleasure always lasts a shorter period of time. And this is signified by this graph over here. Okay? And the two main things you want to get rid of right now, caffeine and sugar. Like, you don't need them. You don't need sugar to function. You don't need caffeine to function. You don't. You don't need caffeine to function. Stop drinking coffee. Stop drinking caffeine. Okay, it's going to be hard for a while. The first 2 weeks are going to be miserable, but then you'll start to see like what happens, how you feel, and how stable your energy levels are. Number one, evaluate everything. Evaluate your general life, what a day in the life looks like, and look at all of these. Identify those excessive dopamine sources. You don't have to get religious about it, again, but just make a choice to do it and see what happens. Number two, make a slow cut. Don't jump. Make a slow one. And number three, coordinate your importance levels. Like, don't put too much meaning on it, because if you do, then it becomes self-defeating. It starts to work against itself. Okay? And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And also, I'm super excited to announce a couple of spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery Program. The link for that is in the description. You can schedule a free consult with us and let's see if we're a good fit to work together in a closer setting and if we can help you take your life to the next level. Now, who we typically work with are entrepreneurs who are stuck at a certain revenue level in their businesses. They want to scale up. They have all of the business tactics and strategies, but it was never a tactical or strategic problem. They're starting to see that they have an internal barrier. They have some sort of limiting belief. They have some sort of past experience that keeps coloring what they're experiencing in the future, and they can't take a step back from it. Who they are is the problem. Okay? Who they are is being a reflection in their businesses. So if that sounds like you, then make sure you click on the link to sign up for this consult and let's see if we can help. And the free Facebook group is also open for you to take advantage of. It's only for professionals, only for entrepreneurs and high performers. Okay, so make sure you fill up those 3 questions or else we can't approve your membership. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Peace!